What's a common habit that secretly makes life 10x harder? Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. Story 1. Waiting for the right moment to do what you want. Not doing anything alone and putting off the things you want to do until people will join you in doing them. Answer. My mother has wanted to watch a movie for a couple years. She wants to watch with us. None of us are interested in that movie. Why can't she just watch it alone? You're not even supposed to be chatting during a movie anyway, and, in my case, seconding the travel. Friends and family are interested in different places and different activities. Perfectly fine. We're all grown-ups and can go where we like. Story 2. Not taking a walk. Guilty of not doing this, but when I make room for taking little walks every day, life suddenly gets much easier to handle. It's hard to overstate the power of little walks. Story 3. Not living within your means. It's crazy how many people I know that have decent incomes, better than mine, but are at best having a hard time paying their bills or at worst drowning in debt, but always seem to have extra cash for unneeded shoot. Can't afford rent, but can afford cigarettes. Car payments are too expensive, but Uber Eats is a bargain. Answer. This. I recently went from making $700 every 2 weeks to about $3,000 in the same time period. I thought everything would change for the better, but after about a year of this, we adjusted to our new income and still find ourselves broke at the end of the pay period. It's crazy how eating out every day and buying anything you want, when you want it, sneaks up on you. You think it's life-changing money, a huge difference, but you adjust to it just like anything else. If you are of the mindset that you can spend whatever you make within a time period, you can make that happen with any amount of money. It took me almost a year to realize I wasn't being responsible with my income. Story 4. Want to feel bone-deep tired for no darn reason? Skip the sun for most of your life like a dedicated little vampire. Drag yourself through the day praying for a nap, then finally cave and get blood work done. Vitamin D 13.2. Doctor slaps you with a mega dose of vitamin D for 3 months. You take it. Suddenly energy, motivation, the will to live. Edit. No jokes, I have only taken it twice now, 2 weeks, and I can already feel a difference. Story 5. Inviting drama. Drama will come to you whether you want it or not. People who seek it out are just adding to their own problems. Story 6. Getting caught up in others, people's drama, especially celebrities. They don't care about you and never will. Story 7. Habitually overeating, it won't get you right away, but when it is time to pay the piper, this bad habit will have set up a series of health dominoes just waiting to be knocked over and fudge you. From brain to heart to joints to mental health to metabolism, you will be decimated. Story 8. Doing things the correct way when there isn't a correct way. Example, laundry. The correct way in America is dirty clothes go in the hamper, washing machine, dryer hung up, dressers, closest. The last step is what gets a lot of people because it typically involves sorting and folding, and so it'll take people forever to do laundry because they are dreading that last step. But you don't have to do that. Clothes don't have to be put in dressers or hung up. If leaving them in a basket that indicates they are clean and it prompts you to do laundry more, then that's good enough. Story 9. Only reading the recipe and instructions once. Unless you have a photographic memory, you will skip or miss something. Please believe me. Unless it's like 3 ingredients or something ridiculously easy lol. Story 10. Over-explaining. Trying to make sure everyone understands you, that no one misunderstands your tone, your intent, your silence. It sounds kind, but it's survival. It's control disguised as clarity, and it's exhausting. People will still get you wrong, and chasing their perception costs your peace. Let them misunderstand. Let yourself be misread. Freedom is heavier than approval, but it hurts less in the long run. Story 11. Not cleaning up the kitchen while cooking. Then you're full, want to rest, but have this pile of dishes and a stove to clean. And you'll drag it out BC you don't want to, and that makes the pile just seem bigger and bigger over time, emo. Story 12. Keeping everything to myself when I'm struggling. I thought I was being strong and independent, but really I was just making everything 10 times harder by refusing help. Story 13. If you can afford it, not paying a professional to help you and trying to do it yourself. Taxes, house cleaning, auto maintenance, landscaping, etc. Story 14. Smoking plant substance. I genuinely believe it's one of the most harmful substances, mainly because it is considered unharmful. Also, anyone that says it isn't addictive is plain wrong and possibly malevolent. Story 15. Taking 5 minutes before bed to tidy your room. Waking up to a clear space feels like starting the day on easy mode. Story 16. Spending so much time on Reddit at night that I am too tired to get up in the morning and spend time on Reddit. Story 17. It doesn't apply to me, but when I see people chasing money, it always makes their life harder. I'm poor, but I'm okay with being poor. I'm happier than most and rich in the ways that matter. Answer. I wish I could upvote this one twice. I'm not poor, but I'm far from rich. Comfortably content is probably a fair description. I have a cousin who inherited a large amount of money, enough that he could have invested it, retired at 40, and lived a very nice life. Prior to the inheritance, he already had a good job that pays well. Since the inheritance, he has continued working that job, even though he doesn't need the income. I can sort of understand wanting the sense of purpose some people get from their job, but he has recently gone out and taken a second job working at a big box store. His need to spend every waking hour making money just blows my mind. Story 18. Poor sleep habits and sleep hygiene. Tired all day? Probably because you're not getting restful sleep. Story 19. Spending money on stuff you don't need. Coffee, cigarettes, streaming services, fast food, adult beverage, junk food. I'm not saying I'm immune, but most people would be better off at least moderating their vices more and saving money for retirement, paying off debt, or just investing in themselves more wisely. Story 20. It'll likely catch some heat over eating and packing on even a little additional weight. The health problems, mental emotional toll, and daily tasks just aren't worth it. And yes, this is coming from someone who had to lose weight. Life is easier hourly now at a healthy weight. Story 21. Drinking. I have been sober 4 years and am realizing how much more clearer I think, better I sleep, and I have accomplished so much that felt impossible while being a drinker. The first drink you have is so hard because it's your body rejecting it. Just saying. Story 22. Not taking care of important matters when the time comes. If you wait too late, it snowballs into bigger problems. Story 23. You could spend 25 years of your life serving the happiness and comfort of others. Focus on yourself first. Story 24. Storing things you never use. Buying designer label clothes. Leaving things until tomorrow. Avoiding confrontation. Setting off for a place at the very last minute. Story 25. Not eating enough fiber or having a really poor diet. Shoot bowel movements can really screw a lot up. Story 26. Buying shit you don't need, especially when it comes to people having to have what someone else has, or being competitive with possessions. Story 27. Not really looking through your options and keeping on the first thing that works. At my workplace, we test electrical charging stations. The current process is to take each measurement and make a picture of each measurement. Then later on, fill out an Excel table with the measurement and the other data. I spend 2 hours looking through my measuring device. I found an option where I can create the charging station as an object, fill out everything with who it belongs to, where it is, etc. Add all the measurements as saved data. Then connect it to the computer and have it generate a full protocol. It reduces the time it takes by 20-40 minutes while also reducing error rates. The only reason it didn't work like this so far is because nobody bothered to look into it. Story 28. Going to church weekly and spending time in prayer is essentially a tax on your free time. Church time is usually deducted from a weekend, and most people value it more than their work week. Answer. I'm an atheist and all, but it seems that some people genuinely do derive comfort and a sense of connection and community from going to church. Hopefully not from shared hatred of people different from themselves, though we all know there's plenty of that. My mom is like that, I don't get it, but going to church and singing in the choir is something she enjoys. And she stopped forcing me to go too after I was about 10. There are always extremes, but for a lot of people, church probably adds more to their lives than it subtracts, especially if they're able to, believe in God and stuff. In general, I'm cool with things that give people hope and positivity, even if I don't understand it myself. Story 29. During conversations, having your inner voice don't say these dumb things, then that's all you can think of saying. Story 30. Not putting shoes away when you walk in the door or after you have used them. Shoes kicked off, bags left on the sofa, empty food containers left on the side whilst cooking, clothes left on the bathroom floor after showering, that sort of shoot. Gets to the weekend, and it's all I ever do is clean. Story 31. Trying to be someone you're not. Setting high expectations for yourself and not listening to your true needs. Story 32. Overeating by finishing all the food on your plate because I was raised this way or because children are starving in country X. Overeating isn't financially sound or a healthy expression of your family culture or a way to support the poor. It's bad for your health to stuff yourself at every meal, and people spend a lot of time, money, and emotional effort managing their health after gaining more weight than is good for them. Story 33. Not calling a spade a spade. Don't be in denial about things you obviously notice going on just because it's hard to believe. Story 34. Smoking. Do it enough and almost all physical activities will get harder to do. Even if you never get that bad, all that time spent smoking, feeling crap because you haven't smoked yet, or even just working to pay for the habit is a big waste of time. Add up all that time and money spent on it over a lifetime, and it's a lot of both to spend for very little gain. Story 35. Smoking, worse health, less money, and losing it when you couldn't suck at a smoky stick for more than 2 hours. Story 36. People just being themselves. It's not always a good idea, especially when you're a jerk or just a run-of-the-mill goober. I'm speaking from experience because I'm a bit of both. Story 37. Social media scrolling. One video turns into 10 if wrecks your concentration and takes up valuable time. Story 38. Saying yes to everything. You think you're being helpful or nice, but you're actually draining your energy, building quiet resentment, and filling your life with other people's priorities instead of your own. Learning to say no is the fastest way to reclaim peace and progress. Story 39. Being honest with everyone. From a young age, you're told you should always tell the truth and be upfront with your intentions. But once you enter the adult world, your candor is counted against you more often than not. Story 40. Procrastination in general. And personally being lazy, I don't go to the places I need to go just because of my laziness. Story 41. Deprioritizing your self-care as you feel you need to prioritize everything else. Burnout is a nightmare to sort out and takes extensively long time to recover from. End up not being able to do anything well once you reach that stage. Story 42. I briefly dated a girl who took everything personal, and the smallest conflicts with anyone was immediately escalated. Tiny misunderstandings were screaming, threats of violence in a matter of seconds. Story 43. Treating every ailment. If you have a headache, maybe just go to sleep or just deal with it. You don't have to take anything for it. Same goes for most common ailments. If you treat everything, then you treat the side effects, then those, ad nauseum. It ends up at a very miserable life anyway. It spirals quickly. Story 44. Creating and getting thrills from drama. There's peace, tranquility, and freedom from stress when one pursues quiet in life. Edit. Stoicism is valuable for life. Story 45. Hoping someone will do what you want instead of just asking them with your words. Seriously, it's like some of you just want to have unhappy relationships. Spend 5 whole minutes and make your partner a list if you're constantly unhappy that stuff you refuse to ask for isn't being done. It's not hard to put in 5 minutes of effort to communicate your needs each week or month. Relationship advice and writing are huge graveyards of people who can't be bothered to spend a couple minutes to communicate their needs, yet think it's the end of the world when those needs they refuse to communicate aren't constantly being met. Try asking for something next time. It's really not hard. Story 46. Drinking. How many wonderful, promising lives have been destroyed by a drunken accident, mistake, and the fact it can even ruin people who are just around it? Yeah, this is my answer. Story 47. Buying things you can't afford with money you don't have to impress people you don't even like, Tyler Durden-ish. Story 48. Not being honest with others, but especially with yourself. When you lie to avoid conflict, please others, or ignore your own needs, you build a life that isn't really yours. Eventually, it collapses under the weight of pretending. Story 49. Peeing in pop cans may save a bit of time in the long run, but it makes it much harder to choose which can was your half-tipsy one from last night and which ones have pee in them. It sucks when you get it wrong. Story 50. Not sure if it's 10x harder, but putting dirty dishes in the sink if you're not going to wash right away definitely makes life harder. You can't use the sink fully. You can't hand wash in order. You might get cut, and depending on how long it's going to be until you wash, the water that will inevitably drip down will turn slimy, and it's pointless if you're just going to use the dishwasher. Put a dishpan for dirty dishes or just stack to the side. I also put my utensil basket to the side so I can load it as I go. Story 51. Spending more than you earn. Most people's spending expands to match the money coming in. If you can lower your spending by just a few percentage points, you'll have a much more comfortable time of things. Story 52. Driving. Before you know it, you are caught in a debt spiral that's sucking money right out of your account for the rest of your life. Story 53. Being depressed, hey, my life is great. I'm doing really well. Am on track, consistent. Depression, watch this one trick. Works every time. Story 54. Unhealthy habits, short-sightedness, smoking, drinking. 5 don't 15 Wormus rules. Don't do the unhealthy thing for that amount of time and the craving will pass. If a necessary thing you want to do will only take that time, do it now. Story 55. Having snacks whenever you feel like it. Going to the store is much easier if you've already decided to avoid the snack aisle. Story 56. Squabbling over the little things and/or being a contrarian on things that don't matter as much. Likewise, fretting over stuff you have no control. Story 57. TLDR. I'm 23 and haven't lived that long, lol. But here are mine. Not being able to admit when you're wrong, labeling things as problems instead of challenges, not having a consistent activity with a group of people in your life that you enjoy. Story 58. Worrying about what others think. There will be a time in everybody's life where we will realize that all that worrying was for nothing. Story 59. Just like the promoted ad from ADT official says relying on Reddit hacks to protect your home, time for a real upgrade. Story 60. Always putting off things like studying, exercising, budgeting, or tough conversations. You delay the stress, but it multiplies the consequences. Missed deadlines, poor health, broken relationships, all from "I'll do it tomorrow." Story 61. Not labeling, shoot. You don't need a fancy label maker for it. Masking tape in a Sharpie works great. And even if you think you'll know exactly where it is, you forget over time and people move shoot without asking, especially if it's at work. Story 62. Heavy drinking. Some might say drinking at all. It leads to poor decisions today, health issues, rapid aging in the future. Story 63. Drinking adult beverage. It's terrible what it actually does to your mental and physical health over time. Story 64. There's literally a book on this called The 12 Bad Habits That Hold Good People Back. 1. Never feeling good enough. 2. Seeing the world in black and white. 3. Doing too much, pushing too hard. 4. Avoiding conflict at any cost. 5. Running roughshod over the opposition. 6. Rebel looking for a cause. 7. Always swinging for the fence. 8. When fear is in the driver's seat. 9. Emotionally tone deaf. 10. When no job is good enough. 11. Lacking a sense of boundaries. 12. Losing the path. Story 65. I don't know if it's OCD or perfectionism, but whenever I do something, I feel like I need to do everything exactly right because it gives me a sense of control and satisfaction. But if I miss even a small step, it feels like I failed completely. Answer. Same here. Holy shoot. I darn near got fired once because the paperwork was wrong. Not filled out wrong, created wrong. The fundamental logic of the paperwork was wrong, didn't fit with the system it documented at all, and they expected me to still fill it out? Who made this? I want to talk to this fudge and show him what a real piece of paper looks like. Turns out the guy I was venting to was the creator. I'm just as critical of my own stuff, worse even, but something that out of sync would never have made it to production. Story 66. Checking your appearance in every passing reflection. It's a habit built on insecurity, and the more you do it, the more alienated you feel in your own body. Story 67. Consistently eating more than 1,000 calories under your total daily energy expenditure, TDEE, because you want to lose weight. Then subsequently gaining more weight because of your deficit. Then reacting by decreasing your calories further, causing you to gain more weight. I did this for 21 years and ended up 160 pounds over my ideal weight before I realized what was going on. I felt miserable and exhausted my whole life, and I couldn't figure out why. Lost 40 lbs in 5 months by doubling the amount of calories I eat. I also had about 25 positive health changes, including my legs not constantly bleeding randomly. Starvation mode is 100 real. Story 68. Smoking. Everyone says it's bad because you will get sick when older. But the truth is, it's making you sick every day, and you only notice it when you quit. Story 69. I can't stand how people cling to procrastination like it's a badge of honor. It's literally making life 10x harder for no reason. You're just sabotaging yourself, and it drives me nuts watching everyone pretend it's fine. What's your excuse for putting everything off? Seriously, spill it. Story 70. Spending money on shoot you don't need. Extra points if this causes you to pay credit card interest or, even worse, a payday loan. Story 71. Smoking. Not having a regular sleep schedule, having a screen on while you're falling asleep, drinking past a certain age, eating late at night past a certain age, not getting things done, accumulating credit card debt rather than buying stuff you want at a slower pace, and managing your debt-credit ratio, and so many more. Story 72. Whipping off your clothes and throwing them in the hamper. You then need to inspect every article to see if anything is inside out or there are things in the pockets. If you take off your shirt and make sure it is not inside out and remove things from the pockets before you put them in the hamper, you can just put all the clothes directly into the washer. Story 73. Using more muscular effort than necessary to do literally anything. It's a horrible habit most of us don't even realize we have. Try to move as economically as possible. Story 74. Siloing. Culture praises self-made nonsense so much, it's easy to forget we are wired for communal living and fudge ourselves by attempting to go it alone. Story 75. Falling for the trap of instant gratification. Eat out instead of cooking at home? Credit cards. Want to go on trip? Credit cards. Do what feels good in the moment. Then you have poor health, esteem debt, damaged relationships. Story 76. Falling back on your food prep routine? Sometimes it takes you out for a week if you shift it, and now you're annoyed with yourself. Story 77. It's probably the habit of always being late. I have 10 stories about how I screwed up at important moments because of this and ruined everything. Story 78. Being sedentary, honestly. It's a vicious cycle. The more sedentary one is, the more one feels the need to lie down all the time, at least in my experience. Story 79. Getting addicted to vices to fit in. Smoking at 13, pot at 15, already an alcoholic entering college. Whatever path, often all of those and more, you're only going to find out that you have an addiction problem after you're already addicted. So fudge your entire adult life so you can be cool during your youth. Because I guarantee nobody who thought you were the shoot at 19 gives two shoot about you while you're holding a sign at the exit ramp begging for money at 38. They don't care about your failed marriage, your kids you're not allowed to see, your dank apartment with no furniture, or your beat-to-passing car that drags its muffler. Story 80. Maybe responding to negativity. I say this because anytime you see dislike comments, the person who's getting the comments normally responds to them in an attempt to prove or show their point, but it really just makes the conversation so much longer than it needs to be. It just makes the hater want to keep pushing further and further. It's really bad when trying to get something done because once you have a habit, you'll do it everywhere, whether online or in real life. Then you're always in an argument of the most stupid things. Story 81. Living beyond one's means. It's a trap. Seems manageable at the onset, but people fudge themselves up by their own conscious voluntarily doing for their entire life, for practically nothing. Story 82. My best work happens when I'm maintaining a reasonable work-life balance, not working myself to passing. Story 83. Buying things every month that are out of their budget range. Back to square one when laid off, injured, or sick too long. Story 84. Underestimating when to leave the house to get to a place and then having to be in a hurry to avoid arriving late. Story 85. Investing time, energy, and emotions into people you don't like. I know too many people who seemingly can't stop paying attention to the actions of people they dislike, usually through social media stalking. Story 86. Scrolling your phone when you wake up, and then when you get to work school, and then during work class, and then when you're driving back home, and then when you get home, and then scrolling some more before you go to bed. Story 87. Over-exaggerating your current situation, essentially thinking that this and that is hard from the get-go. Try to breathe and view it from a third point of view, then simplify it. Story 88. Smoking paying to be in poor health, to accelerate your aging, wrinkles, yellowing teeth, and to increase your chances of getting cancer. Fortunately, it's a less common habit now than it used to be when people would smoke in restaurants and on airplanes, but still a habit which is very unhealthy. Story 89. Only cleaning on a schedule. Picking up the small things as you go along makes it so that when it comes around to the scheduled deep clean, it is a fairly easy task. Story 90. Smoking cigarettes. The amount of time spent getting to a location where you can smoke, then the time spent smoking, then going back to your activity is a waste. Then there's the list opportunities, the people that want flirt with you or date you, the job implications of stinking all the time. A lot of people won't hire a smoker. The additional health costs and the damage to lifestyle, having to make others wait for you in a group activity or on a road trip so you can grab a quick smoke irritates folks. Story 91. Important but not urgent. letting things fester until they can't be ignored. So many people live their lives only handling things that are about to blow up in their faces instead of taking care of them before they hit crisis level. It's like every task in their life is a bill, and they won't pay it until it's past due and about to be sent to collections. Handle things before they catch on fire. Story 92. I used to think I need to yell at myself, or that I needed to praise myself. When I do things well, I'd call myself a genius. When I do things poorly, I'd call myself an idiot. Then I realized that I've been wasting all these brain cycles on nothing, because reality keeps the score. I'm as smart and as dumb as I am. If I want to get smarter, I can, but not by yelling. It reminds me of looking at traffic jams in India. Everyone's honking, but it doesn't make the traffic move any faster. Story 93. Peidar em lugares públicos. Não sou obrigada a cheirar peido de ninguém no ônibus lotado em Rio de Pico. Story 94. Pets. Life is much easier without them. Source, me dog died. Didn't get another. I miss my pup, but everything is just easier now. Story 95. Only saving money when there's something left over. Here's the thing. This mindset is an illusion. There's always another bill and expense. The only way to save is to save first. Life is way easier with a little money in the bank. Story 96. Having children, 10x for every child. Also, any vice that you have to combat that equilibrium, 10x that. Life's supposed to be hard, right? Story 97. Surridorn. Eating takeout frequently. You get takeout because you're tiered. Takeout is mostly empty carbs and fats that make you feel full but don't give you energy, making you more tiered so you get takeout. It's a hard cycle to break, and even harder cycle to implement steps to help yourself not fall back into the energy-sucking trap. Story 98. A daily drinking habit. Find something else to do just because you're bored. How about going for a walk or a jog? Or reading a book? Story 99. Some wisdom from one of your elders. Time goes by faster than you think it will. For some reason, the older you get, the faster it goes. Don't make rash, foolish decisions, but also don't let good opportunities pass you by because of fear. One of the worst things to have is regret. Be safe and don't live someone else's life. Live yours. Story 100. Smoking addiction. I have friends who have to plan their day around smoke breaks and can't commit to long journeys or plans that would mean they can't smoke for an extended period. Story 101. Smoking tobacco and nicotine used to be cigarettes that were common, along with, in some cases, cigars, pipes, and chewing tobacco. Now, all of those things are less common than they used to be, but vapes, Juuls, and other e-cigarettes as stuff like Zyn and Rogue have replaced them. And unfortunately, in the case of e-cigs, vape, Juuls, they are worse for you than regular cigarettes would be. Story 102. Worrying about other people's opinions of you. Most of the time, you're just imagining what they think of you. Chances are they're doing the same in their own head and are too busy worrying about themselves than to give you a second thought. It takes a lot of energy to actively dislike someone. Story 103. If you have a low income smoking cigarettes or dollar equivalent vape, it's an insane portion of take-home pay in those jobs held by 18-year-olds and felons. Story 104. Haven't seen this answer yet, but putting things off until tomorrow. It's very easy to tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll start on Monday or the first day of the month. I do that myself and regret it. Because of this habit, a lot of time is lost, procrastination occurs, and you don't have time to do anything. Lately, I've been trying to improve and do this. Start and do it little by little. This helps to cope with your laziness. Story 105. Procrastination. Like I will definitely do it later. Sunday, weekend, etc. Overthinking. Should I have said that or why I said that? Why me or why not me? Story 106. Procrastinating. Putting off a task that takes 20 minutes for weeks, and you spend so much mental energy thinking about how you've not done the task yet. Whereas if you just did it, it'd be done. I say this as someone with ADHD that procrastinates everything until I have an urgent deadline. Story 107. Forgetting to eat regularly. It's ridiculous how many overwhelming problems suddenly become manageable after snack. Story 108. Eating 3 meals every day. This was important in a pre-surplus economy when food portions were smaller because food couldn't keep. The 3 meals a day was the best goal to ensure you kept up with your body's daily caloric needs despite less food availability of the time period. Eating 3 big meals today is now the fastest way to expand your belly because portions and food preservation are at their largest and longest in history. In our current post-surplus time, the only real rule for meals you should follow is to drink more water and set a daily calorie goal and aim to stay under it. Try to eat healthy food, but the calorie part is more important. Generally, this is 2,000, 3,000 calories a day for an adult, but can vary significantly due to any number of personal variables. Story 109. Chronic procrastination. It doesn't seem like a big deal in the moment. We'll do it tomorrow feels harmless. But over time, the mental clutter builds up, deadlines stack, and everything feels 10x heavier than it needs to. What helped me personally? The 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, I just do it now. Answer that email, take out the trash, send the invoice, whatever. It keeps my to-do list from turning into a guilt monster and gives me momentum for bigger tasks. Small wins matter more than we think. Story 110. Not stretching. The connective tissue that acts like glue between all of our organs, the fascia, can harden over time and cause issue with mobility, organ health, and stability. Being older shouldn't be so stagnant and without movement. Story 111. Not asking enough questions, not reaching out to enough people for help because of the fear of looking stupid. Story 112. Doom scrolling. You waste your time instead of focusing on something more important, and you only end up procrastinating. Another one would be worrying. In most cases, what you worry about do not come true, and it only steals joy from your present. I am struggling with both and trying to reduce the impact of these. Story 113. Telling yourself we'll do it later is a lifestyle. It's fine until you realize you've been living in a growing pile of tiny tasks that now feel like a mountain. Story 114. Victim mentality. It's single-handedly the most self-destructive mindset a person can have. It limits you to such extent you constantly feel powerless because bad things always happen to you and you never have any control over them. And it literally makes you resistant to logical reasoning and solutions since your focus is on being right rather than solving your problems. Coming from someone who used to have victim mentality, it ruins your life, relationships, friendships, your own well-being. Story 115. A common habit that quietly ruins people's lives. Spending impulsively when they have money and stressing obsessively about saving when they don't. No long-term mindset, just constant emotional swings. Story 116. Not properly communicating their needs to people in their life. That one simple thing has ruined countless relationships. Answer. I have a coworker who always complained about being single, got in a relationship, then started to complain about her boyfriend not being romantic enough. So we all asked her if they've talked about it and told her that she needs to voice her needs if she wants to make it work. Next week rolls around and she's complaining again, but still hasn't said anything to him. Repeat every week for the last month. I'm pretty sure she's going to break up with him, having never said anything about it. Story 117. Mindlessly eating. I used to be guilty of this. I would eat when watching TV, when bored, when I was playing video games. I ate with no sense of how much or how often. I'd mow down a family-sized bag of Doritos or 5 cans of Pepsi without really registering that I'd done so. I eventually ballooned in weight and went to a therapist for help, realized how I'd been eating on autopilot, and realized from there that it's much more common than people think. I used to eat 50 calories a day because I didn't stop to think why or what I was eating. Now I've been journaling, sitting down and really focusing on my 3 meals a day, and my snacks too, if I have them. I've lost weight, feel far less sluggish, and don't constantly crave junk food. Story 118. People pleasing. Sometimes you just have to say no to people. Otherwise, you'll be taken advantage of over and over and over again. That leads to pent-up anger and resentment. Just learn to say no. Story 119. Not moving your body daily, keeping your muscles metabolism strong, bones healthy, heart pumping, lungs healthy, etc. Answer. I'll never forget coming out of the casino and we took the stairwell. There was this fat lady who was so out of shape she simply couldn't go down the stairs. She stood there out of breath, struggling to stand, over just a flight of stairs. I think about that a lot because that could easily be me one day if I ever decide to not work out anymore. One day I'll have kids and maybe grandkids and I have to be healthy for them. Story 120. Waiting to do the dishes pans. Do them immediately and almost everything will rinse right off. Waiting to fold laundry. Do it immediately and you won't have to iron. Wiping up a spill. Do it immediately and you won't have to scrub. Answer. A while back, living in an apartment with an awkwardly tiny kitchen with no dishwasher, I was forced to do dishes as I made dinner or breakfast. Fast forward to now, I still do them while cooking at it, saves me so much time stress afterward. Still no dishwasher. If I'm waiting for something to finish boiling, baking, or air frying, why not get some things out of the way? Game changer, and I won't go back to waiting until the meal is over to get started. This method works for me, and I love it. I'm sure having a dishwasher would help, but I'm okay with washing as I go. Story 121. Distancing yourself from your friends because they don't contact you. I'm guilty of this. I'm just tired of being the only one who contacts them, yet I know they would be here for me if I asked them to. Distancing myself more hasn't made my life better at all. Answer: I moved away from where I grew up and went to college. I've gotten tired of being the one who always has to travel to get to see people. I didn't get married or have kids, but most of my friends have. I have the least responsibilities. But man, have I spent a lot of money and time maintaining relationships. I mean, it's totally worth it. But I do think about these things. Sometimes it makes me feel underappreciated as a friend that I don't get visited. I always get the, when you come here, you get to see everyone sentiments. Story 122. Spoiling their children to the point they can't do anything. I have seen about 3 examples of extreme spoiling, and the worst one is currently 20 years old. They were coddled, had a lot of expensive trips and things given to them, never did any chores, and were never expected to do well in school. Grandma, grandpa, her aunts and mom did it all for them. This happened all because mom and dad weren't together from the start. Grandma heavily intervened. The mother treated the child as their best friend. Currently, they are very unlikable, moving in and out of grandma, mom, dad, aunts, etc. houses. No one wants them in their house because they do nothing and don't know how to take care of themselves. It's ironic because all those people but dad made them this way, and now they are always asking what went wrong. Answer: I had a friend like this. He wasn't BMW for my 16th birthday spoiled, but even worse was, no one ever tells me no spoiled. Kid got away with takedown for the entirety of the time I knew him. Was compounded by the fact that, beyond his parents enabling and spoiling him like that, his friends did too. He truly thought he could do anything. Anyway, his girlfriend dumped him a few years back, primarily because he didn't take an ultimatum she gave him seriously. He's been spiraling ever since because someone important finally told him no. Story 123. Failing to utilize an actual calendar. I know so many people who insist on just trying to remember everything and then are constantly forgetting or double booking their own plans. Usually because, well, I don't want to become reliant on something other than my own memory. For Pete's sake, humans have been writing things down for thousands of years and the world hasn't ended. Your phone comes with a darn calendar app. Take the 5 seconds to add the thing to it. Answer: Yup. Of everything I learned in college, organization was one of the biggest life skills. In high school, they just walk you through. You've got a set day with bells ringing to tell you to move along to the next class. Then you go home and do your homework for that day with maybe one ongoing project that you have to track. In college, you set your own schedule. You got to make sure you show up to the classes you picked on different days times. Then you have to study on your own and keep up with homework. And you have projects that are sometimes months out that you have to track, etc. Throw in a part-time job, and it becomes total chaos. I almost dropped out my first year of college due to the lack of a set structure. It was a huge shock, and I think a lot of people go through this as well, and it's a big contributor to first-year dropouts. 101 classes aren't harder than high school classes, but creating the structure to adhere to them can be. Calendars and checklists are so important to use. Story 124. As an infant specialist, it'd say many of the ways caregivers deal with infants. Trying to get them to stop crying as soon as possible, not communicating to them, rushing through processes because they don't like it. It's amazing how far slowing down and a little communication will go. Story 125. Rato wari a 40 wars for an measure. My dad sitting in his jerk all day, daydreaming about me and my sister magically healing him if we stand in a circle and pray, instead of trying to make his legs stronger so he can walk better, have a better diet, quit fudge smoking, and quit telling me to force my sister to move here so he can keep his hopes up for him to get better. He doesn't know it, but he's the main source of my depression. Answer: these kinds of self-centered people are truly their own worst enemy, and I have little, if any, sympathy for them for this very reason. As a matter of fact, you would be doing him a huge disservice by giving in and enabling him. No matter what guilt trip he tries to lay on you, don't do it. I'm certainly not saying to abandon him and not help him. Yes, help him, but do it the right way instead of simply giving in to any unreasonable or detrimental demands. If he refuses any legitimate help you give him because it doesn't match his unreasonable expectations, that is on him, not you. Story 126. If you live in a place where winter conditions are a thing, buying all-season tires instead of real winter tires, or buying cheap tires because they are cheap in general, I don't care what they tell you. Where I live, in the Swedish countryside, All seasons won't cut it, those harsher winter days. Story 127. Thinking that they aren't doing enough with their life and forcing themselves to do more activities, socialize, and enjoy life more, when all they are doing is stressing themselves out and getting into forced friendships, doing stuff they don't enjoy at all just cause it's the right thing. Story 1, the 100 to 28. Buying discount products and repairing what should be replaced. Example. I work with a guy that has went through 3 pairs of 99 work boots in a single year. I bought a pair worth 400 6 years ago and replaced them this year. Another example is my mom spending $14,000 to fix her 7-0 truck. She could have easily bought a new one without any issues. Answer, well, I agree, but sometimes it really is the luck of the draw. I bought a Chevy Sten for $300, replaced the radiator for $80, threw a C-clamp on the belt tensioner, and a year later it broke down. Someone bought it off me for $200. I basically rented a car for a year for $180. Also, my current car I bought for $700. Old 4 minivan. I've had it for 5 years without a problem, besides my wife angrily ripping one of the sliding doors off. On the other hand, I bought a used lawnmower for $600. That's been a nightmare. I have put maybe a couple more $100 into it, and it's only mowed my yard a few times. It's now rotting with a cracked engine block. Story 129. I'm not sure how to phrase this without sounding either harsh or dismissive, but continually defaulting to a belief that life is actually fair. Maybe it should be, but the reality genuinely is that it isn't. And to a great extent, things being the shoot way they actually are is the reality that has to be lived in. Obviously, people should try to change issues if they can, and no one can be resilient 100 of the time, but fudge, life is hard, but you have to, keep going. The only other solution is eliminate yourself, either directly or through stupid coping mechanisms, but continuing to live or dying are really your only 2 options. There's no point just stubbornly being miserable and wallowing in trauma, resentment, and the unfairness of it all. Get up, plan your next move, and then do it. Life might still be bad, but just suffering doesn't help. Story 130. Complaining being negative. The only people who put up with it are other complainers and negative people. It creates a toxic environment, and you're the nucleus. I'm not talking about expressing yourself when something bad happens or you're having a stressful day. I'm talking about chronic negativity. Story 131. Stress management. Not being invested in drama and stress. Being okay with being okay. Start saying no, stop people pleasing, and do what you want to do. Story 132. Have children. I'm not saying it's wrong, but a lot of people have children when they think they're ready, but they're really not. Although, are you ever ready for children? Probably not. Answer, it doesn't help that society straight up lies to people, especially women, about just how much of a toll childbearing and parenting often takes. Because it's just what you do, people assume it can't be that bad, because if it was, everybody wouldn't do it, right? That belief is reinforced in the media and even by other parents. I've had some friends with kids tell me that the second they announced a pregnancy, suddenly the tone of people in their lives changed from "this will be the best thing you've done in your life ever" to basically LOL, prepare for your life to be a constant struggle for the next decade and a half. It's so sad that there isn't more honesty around what parenting entails and encouragement for people to make the decision that makes sense for them instead of following a life script. Story 133. Gaining weight. For a lot of people, they think it's mostly or only a matter of looks and fashion, but they don't realize how much harder it makes life. Sleep is less restful if they have weight-induced sleep apnea or hypopnea. Lesser quality of sleep has enormous negative outcomes on other areas of life. Hormones are out of whack. The littlest action is tiring and makes the body sore. It's harder to fit in. The world is built for thinner people. Think of movie or plane seats, moving in tiny aisles in stores, etc. It costs more money to nourish them. It makes them subconsciously seem less employable because people, which includes employers, have this stereotype that fat people are lazy and not disciplined. It's harder to find a date, harder, not impossible. All in all, you want to play the game of life on the hardest mode? Get fat. Story 1. So 134. Wait until the morning to fill up the empty gas tank. I'm always in more of a rush and it's always too crowded. Story 135. Focusing too much on short-term things at the expense of long-term things, aka instant gratification at the expense of future savings and security and wealth. Story 136. Really simple one, but waiting to clean up dinner until the end or next day. Clean as you cook and it will be so much easier. Story 137. I learned recently I can press FTU during data validation screen to actually go left and right in the formula rather than select a cell and have it translate into an address in the formula. It's quite frustrating and hard to get to the right spot using the mouse cursor if you've made a typo. Story 138. Utilizing effective time management and lists. No one really understands how rewarding it is to strike a line through something that had to be completed. Cathartic, really. I should open a cafe where people come and receive a list of things they have to do while they drink their coffee and mark off when completed. Simple tasks. Move the salt shaker to its proper position, arrange the dead baby carcasses in a uniform fashion, that kind of thing. It shall be named Cafe Riboflavin, and it shall also have cats that cuddle and love. Story 139. Binge drinking at bars. People love to romanticize getting hammered at the bar with your friends, but it has its consequences that people love to downplay. Trashing your body and throwing away tons of money just for the sake of escapism or FOMO isn't doing you any favors. Use a fraction of the money to have a couple drinks at home with friends rather than paying a ridiculous markup at the bar. Also consider the fact that you might be trying to escape your financial situation that is being made worse by your drinking habits. If you rack up a big bar tab, you need to work more. If you get hungover and call out you need to work more, figure out where the stress is coming from in your life and find ways to reduce it and have healthy outlet for the stuff you can't control. Sincerely, someone who has lost way too many friends and loved ones to substances, adult beverage, and tragic end. Story 140. The school my aunt works at doesn't suspend kids, has no special ed classes, and they pass kids who can't read or write or count. If I was the principal at the school, it would be a paradise for teachers and students. And I'm 19. How am I so young and can think of 4 things that could help so many little kids in that school? Also, the principal is racist. Story 141. Caring about work, people, the world, whatever. Just learn to let go and live for yourself. So long as you find a way to do something you love to support yourself, it is easy. Story 142. Allowing ourselves to react defensively to perceived criticism. Defensiveness shuts down our ability to assess the validity of the criticism, meaning that we often reject ideas and corrections which can make our lives much easier if we were to adopt them. Story 143. If I look at the recent election here in Germany, they vote based on sympathy or based on we always did it this way, and then complain about that nothing is changing like, duh. Story 144. Drive takes shortcuts without using a GPS. ESP, the older generation, refuses to use a GPS to travel the fastest routes. They're convinced their age-old driving shortcut is the quickest, even though by Waze standards, it's factually not. Come on. Story 145. Telling lies to other people or to themselves. A lot of stress, anxiety, and guilt can be avoided by stop telling lies. Story 146. People not taking accountability for things that are blatantly their fault and that they have absolute control over. Story 147. Constantly comparing yourself to others' success achievements. Social media plays a major role here for many. That shoot just ain't it. Story 148. Weave in and out of traffic just to save 2 minutes on an hour-long drive. You barely make any time by doing that. A lot easier to just wake up on time and cruise to your destination with no worries. Story 149. Getting fatter and fatter and looking for acceptance while damaging their health to the point of no return. Story 150. This one pretty much only applies to programmers, computer nerds. Discovering you have to do some annoying repetitive task on a computer and deciding, I'll just write a quick script to do that instead of just getting on with the task. It almost always was longer than just doing the task. But hey, it's fun, so I'm going to keep doing it anyway. Story 151. Eating shoot. You don't even realize how shoot you feel until you don't. It's life-changing. Just do it. Story 152. 1. Open Chrome. 2. Type YouTube into the address bar. 3. Press enter. 4. Click one of the ads for YouTube. In this case, you can eliminate several steps by typing in .com in the address bar. Also, if you're trying for sites not owned by Google Alphabet, once in a while the ad you click on in step 4 might be from either a competitor website or a phishing attempt. Story 153. Hold the belief that having money in abundance is immoral bad. If you believe that, and also believe that you're one of the good ones, you'll end up self-sabotaging so that the capacity or amount of wealth you allow yourself to accrue is less than what it could be. It's better to put the onus of morality on individuals rather than objects. Story 154. I've seen a lot of people who need some feng shui in their lives. If you have to take 5 steps to go around a table every time you want to walk from one room to another, those steps add up. Move the table, streamline your flow. Story 155, worrying, stressing, being insecure, and being afraid of the little details. Basically letting your own thoughts and feelings hold you back from being yourself and living life to the fullest. Worrying about what others think of you is such a waste. Love yourself and be the person you want to be. No matter what others think, just don't want to be a male body part to other people, because there's this thing called consequences. Story 156, negative thinking. It's a trap that's so fudge hard to get out of. Every time you have a thought like that and give it any weight, so whatever, your brain reinforces it, leading to a never-ending cycle. Story 157, smoking cigarettes. It's a stupid addiction. There is no benefit to tobacco, but a lot of pain it can cause. You feel great after smoking only because it was what made you feel bad. Story 158, using past trauma as an excuse for bad decisions they make in the present. I did this for the longest time, and it cost me an 8-year relationship. I finally am getting it figured out, but darn, I constantly think, what if I was just a bit quicker to reflect and realize? Story 159, drinking diet soft drinks, the chemicals they use to replace the sugar, give you a very strong craving for carbs, so you end up eating just as many, if not more calories than with regular soda. The effect also lasts for hours. Story 160, not voting for public transit and better city zoning because it goes against the character of the neighborhood. Story 161, not saving money. I understand there are people out there who are underpaid and have high expenses, so saving isn't as easy for everyone as other people. But even saving $100 a month adds up, gives you cushion for when things come up, that you can actually cover the cost and not run up a charge on your CC. Story 162, eating out, getting Starbucks every morning. I hear so many people complain about not having money, and they probably spend like $500 a month eating out, getting coffee. Story 163, sweating the small stuff. Admittedly, this is a huge problem for me personally, but I am trying to work on it, and as I do, I notice it more in other people. It's really hard to stop being emotionally reactive, especially if you were raised by emotionally reactive parents, but it is so rewarding when you learn to let shoot go. Story 164, broke people using high deductibles on car insurance. Cashing your check at a grocery store instead of just getting a bank account. Ignoring red flags in people around you because you don't want to be mean. Treating hobbies as careers while treating a career like a hobby. Story 165. Didn't see it mentioned, but snowballing. Building up scenarios in their head and speculating at the very worst outcome. Am horrible for this. It causes me a lot of undue stress and anxiety. Story 166. Spending time with people who don't make good life choices. You aren't helping them. You're only hurting yourself. Story 167. Running away from situations, doable tasks that make you anxious. I mean, the only way to end the anxiety is to finish the task. Story 168. 1. Engaging in negative self-talk. 2. Expecting people to abide by the script in their head instead of respecting everyone's autonomy. 3. Responding to situations based off the narratives they are telling themselves about the situation instead of the facts. Story 169. Not living within your means, not exercising regularly, and not looking after your personal hygiene, etc. Brushing your teeth, showering regularly, cutting toenails. Story 170. Standing the whole time while cooking. Get yourself a stool, and cooking gets 100 easier and less tiring. Story 171. Procrastinating. Why procrastinate for something you have to do no matter what, when today is a good day? Next day might rain, snow, or something comes up, and the longer you wait, the harder it becomes. Story 172. Staying attached to toxic family members because they're family? No. Cutting toxic family members out of your life is the best thing you can do for you. Story 173. Running any business and insisting on calling customers or that customers call you. Stop it. It's 2021. You need to be communicating via text and email. Nobody sits next to their phone these days, answering calls from numbers that they don't recognize. And nobody wants to call you only to wait on hold. And nobody wants to play phone tag. It's inefficient and wildly annoying. Text or email. No phone calls, no Morse code, no carrier pigeon, no smoke signals. Text or email. Please, boomers, give up the ghost already. Story 174. I used to work at a car rental company, and I would have people rent cars for months at a time because they couldn't afford to buy a car. They ended up paying $6,000 over 2 months to rent a car. Story 175. Overeating. There are so many negative consequences to being fat, physical, emotional, and social. People have either always been fat since a child or get that way gradually over years. So it's difficult for them to tell just how much of an impact it's having on their body and daily lives. Additionally, internet culture has spread this nonsense idea that you can be healthy and fat at the same time, and you should even be proud of it. It's absolute rubbish. If you're fat, you're unhealthy. Period. Story 176. Being a pothead and claiming it is not affecting them. Been there. Done that. Took a picture. I will never go back again. Story 177. Blaming other people or society in general for things that go wrong in their life. There will always be racism, sexism, and other forms of bigotry out there, and it sucks when you have to deal with it, but those issues don't control everything in your life. Even if some kind of discrimination accounts for 90 of a problem you're facing, you can still influence that other 10. Make the most out of it. Focus on being the best you can be in that 10. Keep working at it, and you may find that before long, you have more influence in your life than you realize. Story 178. Eye for an eye mentality. I have a friend who always applies this when things don't go their way. They did this bad thing to me, so I have the right to be shoot towards them for it. And when you call him out on it, he always plays the victim card. Well, why does that person get to get away with it and not me? Well, if it was nothing serious, then why is that person taking my shittiness seriously and stuff like that? I love him. He's a great guy most of the time. But when he pulls shoot like this, I want to grab him by the neck and make him grow up somehow. Story 179. Well, I would say self-destroying. Like I know for a fact it is dumb, but still look down on myself and think I am nothing TBH. Story 180. A lot of people think that being mean will protect them from a lot of trouble, but it just adds problems. Story 181. Failing to understand length of time. How many times have you told yourself or someone else that you just need 5 minutes, but instead took 20 minutes? It's a good habit to time tasks occasionally. Story 182. Pulling an all-nighter. That never works. What I'd advise is sleeping super early so you're able to wake up early and start studying. You'll have energy, a fresh mind, some breakfast beside you, and an ability to focus. I did that for my midterm exams and passed with flying colors. Overall, all-nighters suck, and the only thing you get from that is sleep deprivation and moodiness. Story 183. Complaining. We all know life can be a hassle sometimes, but complaining makes everything worse. Stop complaining, folks. Story 184. Not immediately washing the gunk off of dishes, and then wondering why it needs to soak for 1 hour and/or requires extra scrubbing. Story 185. When people hold doors open and am 10-20 feet away, I dislike that because it makes me feel like I need to rush. Story 186. Maybe people realize it more than I think, but owning pets when you live in rentals, it is a lot harder to find a place that allows pets, and it costs you more due to pet deposit, higher rent, or both. Story 187. Overthinking every twist and turns. Of course, life is not supposed to be an even path, but overthinking minor things, decisions, choices actually, in my opinion, makes it harder. Story 188. Immediate needs spending. By this, I mean buying single-ride public transport tickets, gassing the car up 5 at a time, paying minimum payments on their credit card, buying the smallest size of a product they routinely buy, etc. Now I know that these are often no-choice decisions due to lack of money. But with some sacrifice, discipline, and effort, it can make a significant financial difference to break this habit. Story 189. Throwing off your circadian rhythm by staying up late on the weekend. Part of the reason Monday sucks is the jet lag of shifting your sleep cycle. Story 190. Not budgeting time and money. I have no time and I can't afford it. Now, if you will excuse me, I'm late for my balloon animal class. Story 191. How they talk to, listen to, and treat others. Everywhere there are teachers, everywhere people that will help you, but not if you're an arsehole. Life can be easy, life can be hard. So many don't realize that is entirely within their control. Story 192. Letting a lot of small things that bother you a bit go by without doing what you should have done. After a while, your self-esteem decreases considerably. Story 193. Live beyond their means on credit to try and keep up with their peers, which are doing the same thing. Story 194. Avoiding that which brings discomfort. Avoidance is a terrible strategy for most things and will often increase the feelings of apprehension those things cause. Be it the school subject you suck at, putting in no effort. Exercise that unpleasant confrontation, that doctor's visit, or the source of your phobias. Story 195. A lot of people that take showers set the knob to halfway and then adjust it from there, when it would be much, much easier to set it to the highest setting and then adjust down. Hope this makes sense. Story 196. Overthinking, for a lot of people, we say we can't control it, but it is a weird thing to overcome. But overthinking situations only causes our brain to find problems rather than solutions. Story 197. Watching the news constantly, hear me out. It's important to keep yourself updated in what's happening in the world, but more often than not, news spread negativity that's totally unwanted in one's life. There are other ways of keeping up with what's happening around you. Story 198. Being overly kind to people that don't deserve it, you get to the point where you are mentally drained, whilst they walk away the victim when you finally say, enough is enough, X. Story 199. Procrastination. I'm big on it myself, but when you wait to mow the lawn, it makes the next mow take way longer. Waited 3 days to wash your dishes? It's going to take some elbow grease to get those dried pieces of rice off. If you take care of things as soon as you can, it saves a lot of time down the line. Story 200. Cutting themselves off from their emotions and or their past. Trying to reconcile your past with rationality alone will always fail. Story 201. Having exams in a few weeks and not studying, and watching anime to forget about exams only to feel even more stressed. Read and do your work and watch anime in weekend or daily 1 or 2 episodes. Trust me, it is the best you could do. Story 202. A good sleep. Doesn't have to be 8 hours, but things like not watching mobile screen or TV 1 hour before sleep time is good for good sleep. Story 203. Being entirely incapable of staying in one lane on the highway. I can't tell you how many times I just stay in the same lane and have the speed demon who thinks he's in a NASCAR race pass me multiple times because they keep getting hung up the inevitable slower driver. Story 204. Worrying or stressing over things they literally cannot change or prepare for. If you can affect it, go ahead and worry and do something about it. Otherwise, try to put whatever it is out of your mind until something happens that allows you to do something. Story 205. Speeding. Driving within 5 mph of the speed limit makes you avoid stress, accidents, liability, and money. Edit. Read the question wrong. Story 206. My OCD doesn't allow me to leave my house every morning. Work or not, I clean up, and it takes me less than 20 minutes as I'm alone in the flat and everything is in places. Story 207. Not getting enough sleep as if they're cramming more into life. No, you're subtracting. It's the long haul, guys. Story 208. Not taking a minute to speak before you speak. When you go from 0-100 in the span of 3 seconds, you're going to destroy every relationship you have. Story 209. Trying to win the argument when it only hurts everyone. Sometimes being gentle is the most powerful weapon. Story 210. Paying for conveniences you don't need instead of learning how to do simple things for yourself, like having fast food delivered by DoorDash instead of cooking something cheaper and better. Story 211. Drinking. Staying at your shoot job because you need money, but now you're too tired to find a new job or develop new skills. Buying unnecessary fad-type stuff. Treating yourself to fix your sadness, but now you're broke and struggling even more. Competing with others. Keeping up with the Joneses. Helping others when you desperately need to help yourself. This is all the stuff I've learned to give up, and it's really changed my life. Story 212. I'm going to go with the obvious one here, smoking crack. When you get high on it, the feeling is hard to describe. It makes you feel like you've done something with your life, which is so dangerous, and that's how people fall into the trap. And when you crash, you feel like a piece of shit. So you smoke up again, and you feel like you're being productive. It's the same feeling after seeing your room clean or your laundry done, except times 10-0. Story 213. Using knife and fork or chopsticks and eating most meals instead of spoon and fork. I grew up using spoon and fork. I just can't understand how Americans and most of the West, based on what I see on TV, use fork to eat rice. We just use spoon like a rice shovel. Use forks to guide them to your spoon. Spoon to scoop soup. Fork to eat noodles. Spoon to cut cooked meat. Maybe a knife if the meat is not tender enough. But for the most part, we don't need a knife at the table. Story 214. Eating unhealthy. A lot of the junk food that most people eat nowadays is deficient in crucial vitamins that help the body function. Having different fruits and vegetables that include vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin B, and etc. in your diet can help improve your energy levels and can even help with concentration and productivity. Story 215. Going to college. I'll argue that the vast majority of current college students don't belong there and will end up working jobs that don't require them to have went, but yet they will still be in debt from going. This the student debt crisis. Story 216. Looking back at what they could have done. One thing is to learn from mistakes, but another thing is to get so upset that it is driving you nuts. Other people listening can also get kinda annoyed when people always are pointing out what others could have done better. Story 217. I'm going to say, comparing your life and achievements to others, be it your friends, co-workers, or siblings. I've been guilty of this for years, and I still am to an extent. My sister is 3 years younger than me, and over the course of 2020, she turned herself from an hourly wage employee to a talented artist and self-employed small business owner. Meanwhile, I've been working the same retail job since 2018 and haven't changed that much. I look at what my sister's done and it makes me feel like my life is a failure or like I'm partied too hard potential. I know I'm not. My manager's like me and I'm content with my job. But I still feel like she's many steps ahead of me and it makes me feel bad about myself. I've been slowly learning to let it go as I get older, but it still bothers me. Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. If you'd like to see more content like this, you might be interested to know that I've created another channel with a similar theme, especially for those of you who enjoy what I do. I'll leave a link in the description, and I hope to see you there. Take care.